Hey, good evening, everybody. And hey, I got to turn my phone off already. So it's a wonderful evening here. We've got a great guest on tonight, Rick Verbanas. We're going to be talking a lot about Captain America. I hope Alberto's in the audience. I haven't seen him make a comment yet in the chat, but I mean, come on, the man is the king of Cap. But maybe not. Maybe after we get a chance to talk to Rick, we'll find out that Alberto was just second fiddle to Rick. So without further ado, let me bring Rick into the show. Hey, Rick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Bill.
It's a pleasure. I mean, I think we've known about each other for a while. I've seen your collection for a while, and it was, I know you have a busy schedule. You've been doing a podcast for almost as long as I've been doing these things here too. So our schedules really wouldn't have meshed well if you couldn't bend and take the night off from doing those to hang out with us today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thrilled to be here. We usually record. That's why you don't see me on the show very often, is because I'm usually recording at this time. But my partner and I recorded last night instead. And Alberto promises to be here. So we chat all the time, and I know he said he was going to be here. So.
Okay, yeah, you better be. I mean, this would be the one night that he wouldn't want to miss. He should have been here early.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have invited him to get on the show, but then it would be like two dueling Cap collectors trying to
maybe in the future. Maybe in the future we could do that. I refer to Alberto as my friendly nemesis, and we talk all the time. So and here he is.
There he is. Yes, I knew he had to be around here. So welcome, Alberto. Let's see. And it's true. You recently did do an interview with Alberto over on your podcast, isn't that
true? Yeah. So for those who don't know, I do a weekly podcast devoted to Captain America comic books, and it's aptly named Captain America Comic Book Fans. And so we have, we've been doing this for a long time. I think we just recorded episode 160, and so we recover the comics themselves, and we go panel by panel and do the comics, and I do the voices. My partner does the sound effects, but then we also have guests on the show. So we've had a lot of creators on the show, and we also have segments of other Captain America fans on the show. So we started a new segment called Art Captivated, and so we're bringing on Art Cap fans, and Alberto was our first guest, and so he was on just a few weeks ago, talked about his Captain America art collection.
Very, very cool. Did you learn any secrets to his ability to get good art or anything like that?
Nothing I didn't already know. He because he's got such a reputation in this field that he gets a lot of people who reach out to him and like, hey, I heard of this, or hey, I've got this for sale. So that's why a lot of times I see stuff that he's got, and I feel like Jerry Seinfeld. I'm just like, Newman, and he, and he ends up getting it. But we also tip each other off. We're good nemesis like that.
See, Marcus he's a little shocked. There's more than one Cap fan, just like there's more than one Cyclops fan out there too, Marcus. Just remember that. There really is. There's probably a lot more Cap fans than Cyclops, but
yeah, I don't know how to take that. There's more than one Cap fan.
Come on, he's got a whole podcast devoted to Cap fans, Marcus. Yeah. Those are fighting words.
Yeah.
Well, so you don't do your podcasts are all recorded, right? You don't do those as live streams.
Yeah. No, one of these days, maybe I'll get around to a YouTube channel and do them live, or do videos of them. But with the full-time job and being a family man, the weekly podcast takes up enough of my time. I it's all I could do right now. But maybe in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you haven't experienced the live chat, and you've probably seen ours, but
yeah, I've been in the live chat, and I feel like I'm missing a lot here. But anyway, I'm sure I'll go back and take a look at these. So,
all right. Well, Marcus is our resident comedian. At the end of the day, he spares no one, which is a good thing.
And he's also one heck of a commenter on every piece of art that gets put on CAF too. Never fails.
Pretty much.
Thank you, Marcus.
I think around 90,000 or so pieces of art get added to CAF every year, and he managed to what is it? I think it was 18,000 comments last year. So about 20% of the artwork that gets added to CAF, Marcus finds the time to leave a comment on.
And before we get too far into this, Bill,
yeah.
I just want to stop and I want to say a humongous thank you to you for everything you've done for this industry, for comic art fans. Between the website where we have the opportunity to put our own galleries up, and then it's just basically a huge online museum of comic art, to these shows, the podcast, the YouTube channel, the access to guests, creators, and things like that. You've just done so much for this industry, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, I sincerely appreciate that. I really do. It's been a lot of fun for me to do it, as you can imagine. I mean, growing up wanting to be a comic book artist, and then to get to do the things that I've gotten to do, to hang out with artists and I think be a good advocate for collectors, I think I couldn't ask to be in a better spot at this point in my life. So no, it's definitely not something I take for granted, and and seems to get more enjoyable as time goes by too. We're doing the OAX show now, and that's a whole new set of challenges to kind of overcome, but it's still all about trying to make the hobby a more fun place for everybody. And I think so far I haven't stumbled too often. But
mission accomplished. Yeah.
Mission accomplished. I like that. Yeah. Yes, like just mentioned it too, launching OAX. It's like all day today. I have never talked so much on the phone probably in the last year than like the 20 years before that. It's just amazing. Once you start getting into these situations where you really need to network and try to coordinate things with other people, and I know it's working out really well so far. OAX just keeps getting better and better too. I'm one way or another, it's going to happen. I told somebody it's like a train barreling down, and one way, it's going to happen one way or another, whether I want it to or not. But every day there's like something new that's unique that is going to make the show, really special. And it sucks not being able to talk about half of it,
Right.
because you want to keep it under wraps until you're sure how it's going to shake itself out. But yeah, it's been a true pleasure to kind of be the caretaker for the hobby for a while, and now kind of being the spokesperson or whatever you want to consider it, from the doing the live streams and stuff. But I do appreciate that, Rick. I really do.
Of course. And I'm looking forward to OAX. And I got to tell you, I understand how hard the work that gets put into that. And prior to when I had a comic book store in Atlanta, gosh, I don't know, 20 years ago. But prior to that, I had put on a few shows myself. And over the course of a kind of like, I don't know, 10 or 12 years, I put on a few different shows. One of them was a 2-day show, 10,000 square feet, so I know the amount of work and effort and blood, sweat, and tears that go into this. So, kudos to you. I know we're all excited for it.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm excited to have you over there too. Hopefully you can do some recording or something while that you're there. There's a lot of guests that are going to be there.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because my partner Bob Lucius on the podcast, he lives in Florida, and he's probably like 4 or 5 hour drive to where the show is going to be, and we've never met, and we've done 160 episodes so far, and we've never physically met. So we are going to meet at your show on that Saturday. So we do plan to do some sort of recording for that, to kind of have fun with it, really,
Sure,
for our show. So
well, I was gonna say I have a feeling a lot of collectors are going to meet for the first time. That's like when we did the first Heroes Con after the pandemic. It was so neat to get to actually meet people that you've been chatting with or emailing with for several years, and the people who are hanging out in the chat. So I think OAX is going to have a lot of that similar vibe. People who are meeting for the first time, who've been corresponding through CAF. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a lot of fun. So yes, I see CEO comments in there about me going to the hair salon. Thanks a lot, Marcus. But let's talk a bit about you, Rick. Let's talk about how you got started. Well, so clearly you owned a comic shop for a few years. You've got your feet wet doing a few shows. But prior to all that, I mean, what turned you on to the hobby, and then what was the switch that was flipped that got you involved and interested in original comic art collecting?
Well, so I think like most of us, we started off in collecting comics, right? So I grew up reading comics in the 70s and 80s. So I remember going to the grocery store with my mom, and she'd be like, "Stand over there." Basically, don't be underfoot. Just go over there and read the comics, on the spinner rack. And when I come and I'm checking out, I'll pick you up, and you can pick out one comic. So I remember doing that. At the time, the covers were like 30 cents, 35 cents, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I really started, enjoying comics. And then I think it was in the 1983 is when I had I started making my own money. And so I started picking up comics, myself. And that's when I picked up Captain America 286 and 287, which is the beginning of the Deathlock story.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, on a side note, I have been collecting Captain America monthly ever since. I've never stopped. And so I've been then got into I went going to an LCS. I grew up in Delaware, so I went to Captain Blue Hen, and I started realizing, like, wow, back issues, that these aren't the same price as the cover. Like, what's up with that? And then started realizing, that comics go up in value. And then I started buying and investing. And I remember my first major investment. I think I bought 100. I ordered through my store. I bought 100 copies, a case of Superman #1 by John Byrne. And I was like, this is going to make me rich. And so everybody else bought that issue. And then I started setting up at shows. Mm-hmm. And I started giving away Superman #1 with purchase. And that was my hook. And then I guess, I got through, I think, college, and I was at University of Delaware. Then I went to University of Alabama on a student exchange. And I realized there that there was like a big vacuum. There wasn't anybody selling comics there. And I was like, wow. So I started doing a mail order service and for students there. And then I was making my own newsletter. I was like typing it up, newsletter with pictures from, like, the previews catalog or whatever. And like, here's some hot investment tips. and I had
creating your own markets, right?
I did. I had subscribers and everything. And then I started to do a couple shows at the University of Alabama, and I hosted some one-day shows. I had guests. I sold tables. And then there was a sports card store not too far away that he only used like half his space. So I was like, how about I rent the other half from you? And I did. And I set up my comic book store in there, and it took off, even though I knew it wasn't going to be forever, because I was had to graduate and go back to Delaware. So I did that. And then I graduated Delaware. I moved to Atlanta, and I immediately start trying to get a loan to open up a comic book store. And sure enough, there wasn't any banks that wanted to give money to a 21-year-old with zero collateral. So I put that dream on hold. And then I got a job in sales. And then one day somebody had said to me, why don't you sell online? There's this new thing called the internet. And so I guess it was late 90s, started to build a website. And I had 10,000 different products on the website when I launched, and a lot of back issues. I was doing new comics and all that stuff. And the URL was comicbooksetc.com. So, and I named my business after the URL. I called myself Comic Books, etc. Mm-hmm. And that took off. And then I quit my job at an advertising agency to do that full time. And then that took off more. And then I was like, well, I might as well open up a retail location. So I opened up a comic book store in Atlanta, and I had that for 7 years, I want to say. And then I had to sell it because I had to move back up home, and for family reasons. So I sold it in 2009. So I think I had 6 years. So I sold it in 2009, and I moved to New Jersey, and then was dabbling in selling comics online, for a little bit, just as a side hustle. And then in 2018 is when I got into art, my first published art, I should say, because I had always done sketches and things like that prior to that. And then 2018 is when I joined CAF, and I got my first published piece. And man, it's a cruel monkey that's been on my back ever since.
Isn't that the truth? So what was your first sketch that you got?
Sketch? Gosh, now we're really testing the memory. I honestly don't know. I mean, that was
published
in the
piece,
80s.
then?
What's that?
And then what was the first published piece that you got?
That would be I sent that to you.
Okay, that's one of the ones.
That was the first one. Yeah, that was Captain America 287, because I had to get a piece that came from one of the first Captain America comics I ever bought. And so I ended up getting that.
Who did you pick that up from?
So that was from in CAF. I actually met him through CAF. I think he's in Europe. I want to say France, maybe Italy. I apologize. But a shout out to, he goes by Peter Venkman.
Yeah.
But his name is Sebastian. And so Sebastian hooked me up, and there it is. That's the piece to 287. And I loved this page when I saw it, not only because of the memories that it brought back, but Mike Zeck is by far my favorite Captain America artist, and John Beatty is by far my favorite artist to ink him. And so the two of them together are just magic for me. And these are 3 large panels. It has Deathlock, and this last panel is just, you see Steve and you see the humanity of him. And I know I say I'm a big Captain America fan, but ultimately my favorite character of all time, my favorite fictional character of all time, is Steve Rogers. And so this last panel just really epitomized, the humanity behind Steve Rogers. Like he didn't want to see these villains, these bad guys, really, destroyed in this explosion. And so it just, the page spoke to me, and Sebastian and I, worked out a deal, and he shipped it overseas, and I've got it framed and hanging on my wall.
Well, yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I've always wanted a page from that run too. And I mean, I didn't read it when it was coming out, but it's just so beautiful. And the stories were great. And I mean, you can't beat Zeck and Beatty as a team.
Right.
So yeah, this is great. And it's kind of amazing that the first piece of art that you picked up was from that first comic too. I mean, that's not something most people are going to go after. They would kind of graduate to finding that, that piece that has that kind of significance to them as a collector. But you started out that way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I'm always on the hunt for more. Anything from the Zeck run during, for Captain America, I'm always on the hunt for more, but definitely from this story, the Deathlock story.
Alberto wants to know, how many Zeck covers do you have?
That's just mean. Okay.
I had a feeling that was a little tongue in cheek there.
So again, Alberto, I love this guy. But I don't have the deep pockets Alberto has. So I have to really pick and choose what I can get.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we talk about that in collecting all the time. Not everybody can go after some of the the biggest and the best pieces out there. But I mean, if you choose your battles like that, as a first one, to get a piece of significance that wasn't going to be cheap. I mean, no matter what. I mean, Zeck and Beatty, Cap, has always been one of the more primo kind of runs, certainly from Cap. Post Kirby, right? I mean,
right.
Burn pages are always tough to come by too.
Oh yeah, only 9 issues there, but I do have a little bit of philosophy, and this is just me personally. Everybody has a different philosophy when it comes to collecting. So I've always looked at collecting art differently than collecting comics. So like if I collect comics, I have a Captain America collection, right? I don't feel bad that my Captain America comics are sitting in a box somewhere, because I'm not stopping anyone else from having a Captain America comic book collection.
Right.
Right. But I don't like having my art hidden. I don't like having them in portfolios or drawers or anything like that, because they're one of a kind, and I don't want to stop someone else from being able to enjoy them. So I better enjoy them. So my art is either framed, or you can't see over my shoulder, but back here I've got a lot up in a corner, just kind of not framed but displayed. So I
It's
have,
out. That's good.
yeah. So the art is out for me to see. And again, everybody's different, but I feel like, and I've heard many people say this, we're just the current owners, like the purveyors of this art, right? We're just the ones who are lucky enough to have them right now. People have had them before for the most part, and someday someone else will have it again. So that's how I treat all my art like that. So if you ever see me sell or trade a piece of art, it's because I don't have space, and there's a bigger item I want to get. And so I'm constantly, shuffling art that way. But if they've made it into a frame, it's 90% chance they're staying there, and they're not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Rich Dennis points out no art get-togethers for you because everything's framed or on display. Or you're just coming empty-handed if you're going to an art.
I have a few, and if I do, it means that they're probably available for trade or sale or something like that.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, Jason says art needs to be displayed. If you've ever seen any of the times we've had Jason on, I mean, he's literally got no room between frames on his wall. He's done a CAF Cribs. So, and I should tell you, I keep getting asked about CAF Cribs, everybody. Somebody needs to start, recording their displays at home and sending them my way so we can get some more of those on the CAF update, because
I'm with you, Jason.
Yeah, no, yeah, Jason's all about the display, showing off. And Colin mentions custodians, caretakers. Exactly. I mean, you're going to end up passing it along to somebody else, but it's a good way to look at things at the hobby. I think in that you're right. I mean, you can leave comics in a box. You're not hiding them from anybody because anybody can own the same ones as you, but you might as well have the art out. I don't think, not everybody has that philosophy, but that's a pretty cool way to look at things. I've never thought about it that way, but it is so true. It's one of the unique things about collecting original art that you just don't get from too many other hobbies. Maybe statue collecting, because where are you going to put them?
Sure, yeah.
I guess there's a little crossover there, but art's very unique.
Now, that said, listen, if you've got any Captain America art, especially Zach or Byrne, hidden somewhere, give it to some. Let somebody know who's going to love it and adore it and put it in a frame somewhere.
So do you use the want list function on CAF to let people know sort of what your comic art wants are, or do you have keywords set up there to kind of get alerted? Yeah.
Oh gosh, I got to tell you, sometimes I get the emails, and it's just a lot of days I'm like, please God, please don't let it be something I want. Please, because there comes a point where it's just like, I got to stop. And the other thing I try to do, just as a philosophy, is I try to appreciate at least one piece of art every day. So I'll just kind of go over and look at something that's framed, or look over, in that section over there, or pull something, and just every day to appreciate what I have.
Well, that's awesome. Does any family members share the comic art joy, or is it something that it's all just for you?
Yeah. So my wife's great. She appreciates the hobby. She totally just respects and supports me in that regard. In fact, I have this finished basement down here. So I have, this particular section that's devoted to this, and she knows I'm out of space. And so actually it was about a month or two ago, she said, we have space upstairs in the hallway that we could do, and these, I'm like, yep, let's do it. And so I end up putting 2 pieces up there, and because it gets absolutely no light, no sunlight or anything like that.
Mhm.
And so it's perfect.
Well, that worked out pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
but did she have to approve the pieces that you put up there, or
No,
were you?
no, she's cool like that. Yeah.
That's great. And see, Alberto's idea was just shot down. Then he said, "You have no room on your walls, Rick. So I'll take those pieces that you can't get. I'm happy to be a
Oh, listen,
custodian."
we have Alberto already knows there's a handful of stuff that he has that I am like begging him, like, please sell them to me. But it's I feel like Jim Carrey, when he's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, so you're saying there's a chance, right? So I'm holding out hope.
Well, yeah, there's some people have grails that they'll never let go of, but others, you never know. There's the thing is, there's so many pieces out there that we as collectors would be happy to own, versus the things we already have. So there's always something else to chase. So
now, speaking of which, you might want to put up the next one.
Sure. I will do that.
So this was a piece. This is nope.
Oh, I get the wrong one.
That's the wrong one.
Oh, sorry. We'll see. Which one was I supposed to get? Oh, I think no. Was it the DPS that was next on your list?
Oh, you know what?
I think I am following your list now that I'm looking at it.
That may be a bad on my part.
I try my best to follow the orders when
I sent you the wrong John Byrne, Captain America.
I thought there was a number discrepancy. You sent me like page 6 and it said page 4 in your Word document. And I thought, well, one's a typo.
Yeah. I need to.
Is it a piece that's up in your CAF? I'll be happy to okay, I'll just go over there and find it, because I know.
Yeah, it's the only other Byrne from that. It's when you see it, you'll see Cap bouncing all the way around.
I was like, all right, it's a good page, but no, that'll make sense. Let's see here. Let me get over here.
Yeah, so this particular page, it's by John Byrne and Joe Rubenstein, and it's from 1980. And as you said before, it's there was only like 9 issues that Roger Stern and John Byrne did before Jim Shooter. Yeah, Fred, it is a good situation. But this is the page, and when I saw this page, I fell in love with this page. I mean, I am a sucker for Cap doing acrobatics, and I didn't have a Byrne Cap page, and I had reached out to a collector on CAF, and it's Kareem El Rafi. And so I want to give a shout out to Kareem. I reached out to him, and then he, hey, listen, if you ever want to sell this, please, keep me in mind. He's like, sure thing, and I'm sure we all get comments like that. And we're like, yeah, no problem. Right. And so persistence pays off. So a year later, I reached out to him, and then after a few months, made an offer, and then we kind of went back and forth, and eventually I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. And so I love this page. And you have Cap in full uniform with his shield in 4 panels, doing these really cool acrobatics. And that first panel, you just gotta love the skyline, the shading, the fact that Steve's, the way he's holding the shield, and then the thought bubbles too. I love getting pages that have the word balloons and the thought bubbles on there. And so just love this page. And Kareem, shout out to him. He hooked me up, and I now have it framed on my wall so I can look at it every day I sit here.
Now, you said you made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. Was it a offer that you were comfortable with, or was it something that was putting you in a uncomfortable zone?
Well, definitely comfortable. I wouldn't do anything that was uncomfortable, but I would also say that it, max out your budget. So I go in every year with a budget of here's what I want to spend. And the last 2 years I maxed it out by April. So at that point, it's like, all right, well,
What
what
do
can
you
I,
do for the next 8 months?
what can you sell? What can you trade? And that's that's what I do. So I've sold and traded a few pieces,
Mhm.
and maybe I went over my budget just a little bit.
Well, fortunately, I don't strategize that well at the beginning of a year. Maybe I should. It might kind of keep me a little bit in line. But that's been, we've had an embarrassment of riches in the hobby. The last 3 or 4 years, just so many great pieces coming out and changing hands. It's been a wild ride. But I mean, this is a great piece. I mean, John Byrne, Captain America, and it is absolutely. Fantastic page. I love it. I mean, I could see why, you don't need another burn. Why do you have another burn, Cap, when you have this one?
Yeah, totally. And so Lee Harmon asked the question in the chat, and sorry, I've been talking so much, I haven't paid attention to the chat.
Oh yeah, I highlighted. I was going to go back to it.
Yeah.
This is the one.
I would say almost all of it is, especially for the published pieces. I do have a sketchbook that I've had for like 20 years that I've really been meaning to scan and put in, because I have some really cool stuff from there, some big name artists that I would love to put in there. And I'll get around to that one of these days. And then all my Fred Hembeck sketch cards aren't in there. I got to do those. But I think all my published pieces are definitely in there.
Cool. Well, there you go, Lee. He's not hiding too much.
Yeah, Fred, I want to know what the horse head in the bed meant. I mean, I get the reference from The Godfather, but I must have missed something before.
Fred will explain. I missed it too. Yeah, Alberto says, I think we all feel that our budgets are shot in March and April, but somehow we managed to find the money to increase the budget later in the year. It does. Yeah. Well, trading is a big part of our hobby. That the offer you couldn't refuse. Yes.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean, it's just the nature of our hobby. Like I said, too many good pieces of art have been coming out to market that it makes it, you have to be prepared when it does. Right. I mean, Jason sent me a link, for instance, earlier in the week, where he's like, "Oh, Bill, look, all this stuff. I think you might be interested, or this 1 or 2 pieces." And he's like, "Oh, but," which I go to look at, and he's like, "But I think there might be like 8 or 9 more that you might be interested." And I look, and I'm like, "Son of a gun, there's like 10 pieces of art here that I wouldn't mind picking up," And it's like, all right, well, what am I going to do to at least get one of them? So you're always presented with challenges like that in this hobby, and a lot of. I'll tell you, anymore, it's a little easier to kind of pass them up, some of them, because maybe the prices are higher than you want to pay where they were at like 3 or 4 years ago. But for you, you're kind of new to the hobby. Like you said, 2018. So you kind of came in, I mean, the where we at today might be, 2 times where it was at when you came into it. So, but you already came, you weren't here in the early 2000s.
I'm paying the high prices. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So that's the norm for you, at the end of the day. So, so did you find that, like the price increases, from 2021, 2022, as shocking as maybe some of us old timers have, as far as just the increases? Yeah.
I do a lot of research. So I try to do my due diligence. If I ever, make an offer to a private collector, I try to base it on what I've seen go for in closed auctions, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I guess it was the big end of 21 that I was on a hunt for a Zek cap cover. Like that was my grill. Right. I wanted to get a Zek cap cover, and I did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, used CAF a lot to reach out to people who had stuff listed, just to kind of get an idea. And then they would say, well, I've had offers of this, or I wouldn't sell it for less than that. And then, okay. And so I have an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm writing all this stuff down, and, gathering all this information. So to the question you had before, comfortable, uncomfortable, then at that point I'm like, okay, I know the max that I would feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, you don't want to, a lot of it is you want to love it, but you don't want to, lose money on, something as well. You want to do something that's smart, um, eh, so I do a lot of research on that, but, um, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, the prices are high. Yeah, no doubt. But I've seen things come down a little bit in this past year too. I think, the post pandemic, I think we're starting to see a little bit of a decrease in some of the premiums we were seeing before a year or two ago.
Well, there's definitely not uh, on the high end side. We're not seeing as many of those big, $500,000 pieces coming out on the market during the heritage auctions or higher.
Mhm.
I think now that there's a little bit of a softening, that more people are going to hold back the more pricier things, just because especially once you have that taste, you think this is a $500,000 cover, but you don't want to put it out there and maybe have it only go for 400,000. So it's best just to hold on to it for another 5 years when you got more of a guarantee to get more out of it. And that's the extreme example, obviously, but I think the one thing that I know from collectors is we don't like to lose money, on pieces, things that we've spent money on. So you'd rather sit on something than lose it, unless you were really in a pinch.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Fred says he's lost a few pieces because of lowballing. Lesson learned. I think we all have.
Yeah.
That, right. I mean, sometimes you think you're still offering a fair price, but you're going in pretty low, and you either don't get a reply back. Yeah, that tells you were too low to begin with. But it does happen.
Yeah. 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 And I think everybody has a different mind, and, in their a different idea in their mind as far as what something is worth.
Hmm.
And, there's no price guide, right? So that's why I try to go to look at um, closed auctions and closed sales, and see, and kind of, whenever I do an offer, I kind of base it on that. And then, you know, sometimes, you'll get people who come back and say, all right, well, what about this? And I've had some people go, yeah, I'll take that, um, you know, pretty quick. So, some people may feel, you know, that same exact offer is high. Some people say that same exact offer is good, and some people will say no, that's too low.
Hmm.
It's all perspective.
Right. No, that's the way to go. But it was interesting when you were talking about picking up the cover, that you actually went out. I mean, you did your research on sales that you could find, but you also went out and kind of queried people who had covers that may or may not have been available, and kind of at least tried to gauge where they were at with regards to offers they would turn down or potentially accept, and that kind of gave you the ammo you needed to have to go out and make a confident purchase on a Zec cover from CAF. So that's pretty wise.
Yeah, and then also too, take the information that's out there from what dealers are asking, right? And use that as a gauge as well. I mean, there's a lot of different areas that you can kind of look at. But
Yep,
I'm preaching to the choir here. I know everybody here is doing the same thing as me.
well, but it's good for people to hear this, because there are a lot of new people coming into the hobby and they don't have a strategy. And the worst thing you can do, and it happens to everybody, is overpay for some things, and not use common sense and the tools that are available freely. Whether you just go to Heritage, where you can get back sales information on pretty much anything. It can be a big turnoff in the hobby, to make major mistakes, whether it's overpaying or doing a faux pas when you're trying to commission somebody. So it's good to hear these sorts of things, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that haven't approached it that way. I can't say that, because I don't think I would have done what you said. Look at the dealer prices that are out there, and look at the market data from Heritage and eBay and
Mhm.
wherever else that you can find. I don't think I would have been querying collectors to get it. Would you take this? Throwing a little offers out there. What are you looking for on that? I tend to be, a little more introverted on that side of things. I would have not gone that far, but it's a good thing to do, right? Especially when you're such a focused collector, you probably know that other collectors that you're approaching, have at least an idea that you're a cap collector too. So they're more apt to reply to you knowing that you have kind of a focus on your collection, as well. I mean, it's a good thing to have a CAF gallery. I guess what I'm trying to roll back
Sure.
there
Yeah.
too is that, one thing that I get a lot of questions from people on CAF when people don't have CAF galleries or they don't share a lot. There's a little bit of a trust issue there, because we don't have, we have a feedback system in CAF, but it's very fledgling, just kind of getting started there. So yeah, a lot of people measure the integrity of the collectors they're chatting with based on what they choose to share in their CAF galleries, and it could be a tough thing. I mean, I was looking over the metrics the other day on CAF, and literally about half of the people who regularly log in don't have active CAF galleries because they're just
Interesting.
get to communicate, right? I mean, and that can be a challenge. I mean, that user, they may be on the site for 20 years, right? But if they don't have any pieces in their CAF gallery, it all of a sudden becomes a measure of whether or not are they legit. And somebody will say that to me. I remember telling some guy, I'm like, this guy's been on the site for about 18 years. I don't think he's been waiting that long to spring a scam on you. Don't quote me on that, because maybe they did wait 18 years. But I said a lot
Playing
of
the
people,
long con.
right. That's a long game right there that they're playing. But it has become that, that measurement of sincerity in asking for things. So yeah. And Jiggy says yes, everyone should have a CAF gallery. That's very true, Jiggy. So kind of back to you. So first piece was a CAP piece. After you got that one, the published piece. So you get that. I mean, were you hooked automatically at that once you got the published piece in hand?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it was just, I guess, the thrill of owning something that I loved as a kid. A page from that comic. Yeah, totally had me hooked. And I made a conscious effort to focus on Captain America, because I knew that I would just blow my budget, in the first week of January if I didn't. So that's one of the things. I mean, I do have a few things outside of Captain America. Don't get me wrong, because there's certain artists I love. Like I love Kevin Maguire, and I'm looking for his pages from his run on Justice League. So that type of stuff. I'm also big George Perez fan, and if I could maybe get a few pages from his early Teen Titans run, I would do those as well. So it's about nostalgia, I think, for a lot of us, right? So I could break out into those things, but again, there's only so many pieces. The pie is only so
To go
big,
around.
right? So
Yeah.
you gotta pick and choose what you want. I do. I think a lot of people probably know Dan Poddick, and Dan's a great guy. And I remember he said something to me a few years ago, because there was a piece that he had offered to me, and I want to say 2019, something like that. And it was a page from 287, and it was a really cool Deathlock page. And he offered me a good price on it, but I didn't realize it at the time it was a good price. I thought it was a little high, because of just previous experience. And so I was like, let me think about it. And then I reached out to him a few hours later, and, he had sold it, and I was just, kicking myself. But I didn't know any better at the time. Like I didn't have enough experience to really understand that. And he knew that I was kicking myself. And Dan had said to me, he says, Rick, you can't get every single piece of art you want. You gotta pick and choose. And he's right. And I sometimes think about that when I look at something and I get those emails that come in, and like, notifications, and I'm like, the collector in me is like, yeah, I want that. I like that artist. I like that, whatever. And then it's like, but what is it going to replace?
Right. Yeah. And that's it's the quandary many of us are in with the hobby today, is when it comes to selling pieces in our collections. It's how can you get a similar or better page? So I think a lot of people are holding on to stuff for that reason as well. It's harder, these days to replace stuff. Even with a softening market, it's still kind of difficult. Jason says Poddick has the ultimate Zek cap cover. I don't remember which Zek cap cover Poddick has, but I've seen when we were at Heroes, I sat next to Poddick at dinner, and he pulled out his phone and just kept scrolling through Oh no, he basically has flips, set up on his phone where he just flips through his portfolios and just looking at amazing cover splash after amazing cover and splash is it's a bit overwhelming, to see
Mm-hmm.
that somebody with that much great artwork. But Dan's a good guy and
Yeah.
definitely somebody you can. I don't think he's going to steer you wrong with suggestions and advice. He's been in it a lot longer than I have. Well,
Yep.
I mean, I think he would actually tell you maybe not as, but he's definitely he's experienced a lot. I mean, when you're buying that kind of quality stuff, yeah, he's a good person to be getting suggestions and advice from. But so after you got that, I mean, well, why don't why don't we just start looking at some artwork? Because I
Yeah.
think we're going to probably end up talking about we're going to talk about these pieces anyway. So looking at these might spur some thoughts here. So you got it. This is a DPS by Garney, obviously with
Yes.
Koblish inks on it. I mean, who doesn't love Garney?
Yeah. I first of all, I got this piece from Michael Lovitz, and I got a couple pieces from Michael, and so shout out to him for working with me on this. And this is also framed. And you can't see it, but it's over in that corner up on the wall. And Zach's my number one cap artist. Garney is definitely in my top three, and just love the style that Garney does. It's just so bold and bravado, and while it's has that 90s feel, it's not the it's a good 90s feel in my mind. So I just really, when I saw this, I had to have it. And it's this is the last double page spread from the last issue of the first volume of Captain America. So this is Captain America 454, and we actually had Ron Garney on the show. And when we were talking with him, I broke this out and I showed it to him, and he just flipped out. He was like, and I'm actually going to quote him. He said, "That's one of my favorite pieces of work." He said, "Yeah, and doing that was a real opportunity. I felt a visual opportunity to really create a feeling of the character that I thought he should represent personally. I wanted it just to be the absolute essence of him. It was always shot underneath, as if you were a little kid looking up at him. And his star was big and blazing across the chest, and he was larger than life. And his chin is up, and he's just so indefatigable. He's facing off against these ridiculous odds. I wanted to feel like the courage in him is represented in the visual graphic, where it's not so much his facial personality, his identity, but his inner identity. Everything that you would hope Captain America as an entity unto itself would represent." And so I just, to talk with Ron about this, just made this page, that much sweeter for me.
Did you literally just quote him in that? That was
I literally just quoted him. Yes. Yes. That was him on my show, like a year and a half ago.
Man, that's pretty powerful. I mean, that's everything that this piece kind of inspires in you when you look at the imagery on here. I mean, he is clearly outgunned, outmanned, and he doesn't give two f's about it, right?
Right.
It's beautiful, but it's classic Garney. I mean, he has just a very identifiable style, I think, in the way he draws his characters, and yeah, this is a really strong piece.
Yeah, and what you can't see at the very bottom is the inker Scott Koblish. He writes, "Eat your heart out, Rob," and which is it's just a gentle poke, a fun poke at Rob Liefeld, who is taking on Heroes Reborn
Right.
with the next issue, with volume 2. And so we actually had Scott on the show as well earlier this year, and I asked him about it. So he kind of talked about it and just said, I was of course very upset that we were leaving the book. I thought we were hitting our stride, and so I kind of after we did this, I was like, beat this, Rob, basically. And listen, no offense to Rob Liefeld. He was a superstar at that time, taking on during Heroes Reborn, but the Garney Koblish, obviously was amazing.
Agreed. So do you have any Liefeld? There was a question from the audience.
I do not.
There you have it. I think you picked a good piece there, though. That's absolutely beautiful. I love Garney's stuff. He draws very powerful characters, with minimal effort, but he's just incredible. And I don't own any artwork by him right now. I used to own a few pages of his in the past, but I'm gonna have to go back. Actually, maybe I own a sketch of his. We have to make a note of that. Every time I mention an artist who I feel like I don't own anything by, I gotta go on a search here.
As long as it's not Cap, I say go for it.
I'll stay away from Cap. Don't worry.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to compete with you and Alberto. I'll stick with Thor and the X books, and I don't know. And then random stuff from the 80s, really. Maybe.
Well,
70s.
I see in the chat. I don't know if he's still here, but Harry joined the chat. Now Harry's one of the members of our Captain America comic book fans Facebook group, and so I know he's a huge Garney fan, and he actually has a few Garney Cap covers and some nice splashes that I don't think he'll ever part with, but if he does, I hope he considers me.
Yeah, we got to find ways to kind of put permanent reminders out there, for people that it is kind of built in the CAF. It's easy to kind of go back and look and see who've maybe been interested in pieces before, but that's good to know. I mean, you're putting these feelers out there right now, Rick. Everybody else is going to want their time on camera to be able to remind people of the pieces that they'd like to pick up from other collectors on CAF.
Oh, that's true. I'm sure Alberto, he's like, no, I'm the only Cap fan. Only reach out to me. Sorry, Alberto.
Harry just said my Garneys are probably the last to go. Yeah. So there you go. Shedding a tear over there.
All right, Harry.
Casa Verbanas. Well, yep, it is.
I respect that.
Jason says he's going to start collecting U.S. Agent. Okay. Yeah.
John Walker, nice.
Market.
I have a little John Walker we'll share later in one of the commissions that I have.
Cool. Well, let's see here. What is next? So this is what do we got? A Man of the Year by McGuire and Rubinstein from 1990.
Kevin McGuire. So I told you I love Kevin McGuire. And he was back in 1990. He was doing the Adventures of Captain America miniseries. And it was a 4-issue miniseries. He did the first 3 issues, and Joe Rubinstein did the first issue with Kevin McGuire. And so they did these year in review. I think 89 was the first year, 90 was the second year. And I remember when this came out. It was like a magazine size, right? Mm-hmm. And it resembles Time, with the font, and I really am a huge McGuire fan. Love his facial characteristics, right? That he does on all of he just brings out so much emotion in any type of style. And so that was one of the things that I think endeared me and a lot of people to his run on Justice League and everything, he did after that. And he just had the ability. You didn't even need words. You didn't need thought balloons. You didn't need captions of any kind. You could just look at the facial expressions that Kevin did, and it told the story. And so he's one of my all-time favorite artists. And so I would love to get a page from Adventures of Captain America with Cap on it someday. But when I saw this, I was actually at an art show, and Tri-State Original Art had this. And
Hans,
Hans and Mary, shout out to them. And so what you're seeing right now is actually the art, but there's like an acetate over top of it that has the the text on it. And so actually this was one of the ones that's framed upstairs in the hallway. And but yeah, I thought it was so cool. I love this piece.
Very cool. Nathan says McGuire is going to be at Fan Expo San Francisco in November. Rick and I'll be there. Let's let me know if you want me to see what he has.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate's a great guy. I've been talking with Nate for a long time. I know he's a big Zek fan, and he's a big Nomad fan. So always trying to help each other out there.
There you have it. Marcus thinks, what's that?
I just want to point out on this. So one of the I had posted this in one of the Facebook art groups, and sure enough, one of Gregory Wright, if you're familiar with him, he saw this piece and he reached out to me and goes, Rick, I have the original. I was the colorist on the cover of this, and I have the original coloring of it if you're interested. So I was like, yeah. And so I bought that from him, and it's and it's the same. And the funny thing is, it's the same size as the piece. So this is obviously much bigger than 11 by 17, and the art is as well. But the interesting thing is, this is the acetate over top of it is the inks, and this is the actual piece that he did. So it is hand painted. And this is what the original art is. And then when they went to do the cover, they put the ink over top of it to, I just messed it up. But anyway.
No, I mean, that was pretty popular in the, I think, early 90s, where they did, where they would color the background like that, shoot the line art on a piece of acetate, and then kind of published from that. I think those are cool.
Yeah. But do love Kevin McGuire.
I think we're going to see at least one other piece from Kevin McGuire.
Yep.
Marcus agreed. They did that a lot. Yes. I can think of there's been a few Adam Hughes pieces I've seen over the last few years that were done like that, typically covers. But yeah, they are cool. And they are, I think they're just unique. There's so many different ways to publish a comic book, right? And at the end of the day, that is the one and only color piece that stuff was shot from. So let's see here. This is kind of going back a little bit, but this is an awesome page.
Yes.
From 77.
So this is my only Jack Kirby page, and I got this one from. I got this one from Francesco. I'm trying to remember his last name. Is Bazana? Anyway, it's tavilooriginal.net. Yeah.
Bazana, right?
Bazana. Yeah. Francesco Bazana. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So he's over, I guess he's in Italy. I want to say.
That's true.
Yeah. Yep. I bought this from him, and because I didn't have any Kirby, and I wanted to get something that and it doesn't have Cap, but it does have two major people in his life, right? He has his arch nemesis, the Red Skull, and has the love of his life, Sharon Carter. So I felt like that was really cool. And really it was that first panel that sold me. This first panel where the Red Skull's getting zapped and falling back. I mean, that's just so Kirby-esque with the action, the way it's happening. So I really, really thought that was cool. Then when you look at the last two panels, especially the last one where he's looking over his shoulder, I mean, he doesn't get more eerie and sinister than that. And so I thought it was really cool. Obviously this is like 1977 is when this particular came out. So, during his run, when he came back on Captain America, thought it was a cool page.
Oh, it's really nice. I mean, I like Red Skull as a villain, and I think that he definitely has a true skull feeling here. Sometimes it's a little more, it has a little bit of characterizations in it that don't make it look like a skull. but I know that like Carlos Pacheco drew it where it literally was so skull shaped it was kind of eerie and frightening to see it drawn like that. And I kind of feel that way in that fifth panel here. The fact that it's it really is like a skull. And I don't know. I think this is a slick page. It doesn't need Cap on it. And
Mm-hmm.
for you, it's the first panel. For me, definitely it's that sixth panel. Just him looking over his shoulder like that.
Yeah.
That's about as eerie, as it gets as far as the Red Skull. Very sinister. He had a skin condition. Is that what it is, Marcus? Okay. But yeah, this is it's fantastic. I really like this a lot. A great 6-panel page. Very classic. Yep. Let's see here. Then going a little bit more modern, 2013 with this John Romita Jr. Cap splash page.
Yeah. So I got to say why I just absolutely love this page. So one of the things, as I mentioned on our podcast, that we do is we cover comics panel by panel and we kind of read through them. And, so if we got like a 1 to 3 issues, we could kind of do that in one episode, but this was like a 10-part story. So we decided to do this one as the second Wednesday of every month. We were going to do, Escape from Dimension Z. And I remember when this came out in 2013, I didn't love it as much because it's hard to follow Ed Brubaker. And, he had this amazing long run and he had this, he did this amazing thing where, everybody just loved, right? He just took Cap to a whole nother level. And then how do you follow that? And so Rick Remender, he followed that by just doing a complete 180. It's not Captain America super agent or super soldier. It's Captain America lost in time in this other dimension where, he's only gone in our dimension like 30 minutes, but he's gone 12 years and he lives this lifetime while he's there. And so this is issue 4. And so what happens is, and John Romita Jr. doing this, and I want to say Scott Hanna was on the inks, and no, it was actually Claus Johnson. Claus Johnson was on the inks. So what happens in Arnim Zola has this experiment, who's a baby, and Cap rescues him and takes him with him, and Zola kind of thought of him as his own son. And so in issue 3 to 4, it's 11 years go by, right? And so amazing, right? Like all of a sudden Cap's been in this dimension for 11 years. And then on pages 2 and 3 of this issue, we see a bearded and a tattered Steve with his uniform being just held together by threads. And he's training this young Ian, and who he has been raising himself. And then Steve thinks to himself, if I hadn't stepped on that train, I'd never have the privilege of knowing Ian. And then you turn the page and you see this stunning image of the two of them jumping off the cliff with this big reveal of Steve saying to himself, and I'd never have met my son. So in 2013, when I was reading this as a father, my heart just leapt at this moment because as I said, Steve Rogers is my favorite character, but this was the first time I could connect with him on this level.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing about it was the same thing at the time is my son was 11-year-old at that time. So I instantly kind of felt this connection, and, as being a father of an 11-year-old, and then just was like, wow, just so incredulous that he was doing this in this dangerous and inhospitable environment of Dimension Z. And then to add to this on this page, Ian says to Steve, show me how it's done, Pop. And so this page instantly changed the dynamic of Steve in his life forever. And he was now revealed as a father, and Ian Rogers, which was his adopted name, was a boy who loved him. And I just was so excited to get this key moment in Captain America's history.
No, it's a beautiful piece, and even better with the story. So I saw in the chat everybody's talking about, we should have you and maybe Alberto and a few other Cap fans come in and debate the top 5 Cap artists of all time and see where there's overlap. We did that once for the X-Men, God, over a year ago, and people enjoyed it. And when we we thought, wow, this is something we should do once a month. Have a collectors debate who their favorite artists are and why, and see where there's commonality and where there isn't. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, if you guys are, if you're ever up for it,
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Bring me on. I will totally do it. We had in our Facebook group, we did a bracket during Sweet 16, during the NCAA double A tournament. We did favorite Cap artist, and then we would match up and people would vote. And it went from 32 to 16 to 8 to 4. The final 2, Mike Zeck versus Jack Kirby. And of course, Jack Kirby won, but Mike Zeck gave him a run for his money. And that was voted on in our Facebook group.
Well, then we'll have to see how it pans out, here. I mean, I think that'd be fun. We just have to talk about who the panelists would be and when we can do it.
Yeah.
Cool. Jason says he won. I don't know. Jason's probably not even in the Cap fan group. Or is he?
Oh, Jason's a Cap fan. Absolutely.
Is he? I mean, he's an X-Men fan. I'm just.
He could be more than one.
I guess so. I don't know about that with Jason, though. He's kind of a very focused guy as far as his collectors goes. Schomburg, Bob Stevenson shouts. Was Schomburg even in the list? Probably, right? I mean, I guess could have been in there, but probably got ruled out real early.
Yeah. A lot of the Golden Age didn't make it very past round 1, unfortunately. And Schomburg was covers. So I think it wasn't. We just did interior artists, and then I'm not sure if we did covers yet. But if we did, Schomburg would be up there.
See, there you go. Jason says he won the X-Men debate. It's all right, fine. Yeah, I don't know about that, Jason. So I saw something else going on in the chat, and I probably didn't highlight it, but I'll try to go back to it. Let's see here.
I saw John Buscema. Somebody has had him as number 1. The only thing about John Buscema is he only did Cap in the Avengers. John Buscema, I maybe only did like 1 issue of Captain America itself. So I guess we'd have to put down some ground rules. Is it Captain America proper, or is it any Captain America anywhere ever?
Because I would assume you're going to limit that debate, as it should be, just to the Captain America books, not anywhere else.
Well, it's your show. Whatever you want to do.
I think we'd have to stick with that, because then it would be better to, you could have a best Avengers artist, right? I think that would be a completely separate debate. Kazar wants to know, where did Gene Colan place in the Cap debate? He certainly did enough books to qualify.
That's a great question. I don't remember where Gene placed. He might have made it to the second round. I don't know.
Not my most memorable Gene Colan works was during Cap.
Well, we actually just last night recorded episode 160. We did Captain America 601, which was Gene Colan actually won an Eisner for best single issue that year, which was 2009. And so we covered that panel by panel. And then the episode before that, we covered 253, I want to say, which is was the last Colan that he did previously, which was Return to Greymore Castle. So we have 2 episodes back to back, which we featured Gene Colan.
Well, that's cool. I mean, Gene is definitely an acquired taste. I love him on Dracula, and definitely on Doctor Strange.
Daredevil, yeah.
Daredevil as well. Yeah.
Marcus, I love Chris Samney. I just got this a couple months ago, which was I finally got on his commission list after such a long time, and after years of trying to get on his list, I finally got on his list. And my second favorite is Daredevil character, and so he had an amazing run on both Captain America and Daredevil. So I was like, hey, could you do those? And I think Chris nailed it.
Well, that's really nice. I love Chris's work too. I mean, he is a solid draftsman, great compositions on whatever he's doing on, if he's working on a commission, or, I mean, he's he's a rock solid artist. I only have a small piece gifted to me by Marcus from Chris, but I'd love to get something like that.
I do have a page from 700 that he
Oh,
did.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there was a let's see here. I got a text from Alberto. Let's see here. Highlight this. I guess this is from your
yeah,
whole brackets here. I don't know. I can make it a little bit, resize it so maybe he's a little bit larger.
Yep. So you could see who. Yeah, and now the prerequisite was it was his interior artist, and they had to have at least 6 issues interior. Which don't get mad at me, but that's why Steranko didn't make the list, because he only had 3 issues that he did the interiors on. So the prerequisite is that you had to have at least 6 interior issues of Captain America to make the list. And so, because it was tough to get 32 that made, 6. And so those 32, and then yeah, people voted on the Facebook group.
Yeah, there's some tough brackets in there. John Romita Sr. and Jr. might have had to have squared off, but Frank Robbins knocked out Jr. That's impressive. And Colin beats Cassidy, so that's another surprise.
I can't see it, but was that done alphabetically in round 1?
It was, yeah. That's so you paired them up. It's a tough. It might have been better to randomize them a little bit. Sal Buscema going up against John Byrne didn't stand a chance, obviously.
Right.
So John Byrne easily.
We redid it. I want to say we redid it, but we based round 1 on how it ended last time, and so they were re-bracketed, so we didn't have like a Buscema going up against Byrne in round 1. It was a little bit. I think people enjoyed that one a little bit more.
Yeah, no, but not bad. That's still a cool way to do it. Hell of a tourney, says Khalil. You got that right, man.
We do a new one every March. We do a new one in the Facebook group. We've done writers, and I think we did covers. So we'll see what we're gonna do the next one on.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a knock or not. Near Jason says sounds like a lot of seniors in the CAP group.
Could be.
Not nice, Jason.
Am I a senior? If I was reading comics in the 70s.
I don't even know if Jason was born in the 70s. Sorry, Jason. I have no idea how old you are, my friend. I don't even have a guess. But very, very cool. So yeah, we definitely should talk about doing a CAP related show in the future. I think that would be fun. I'd love to get back on track. We really had a good time. We did the X-Men show. It's just it was fun. People were laughing at each other because they were there was, for me, it was I was in on it. There were periods of X-Men that where I didn't read them coming off the shelf. So those pieces, those artists and the stories didn't mean hardly anything to me. So I was able to rule out John Romita Jr., Jim Lee. I think I put Jim Lee number 5 because I just was like, well, even though I really never read his stuff when it was coming out, how do you not count him? But it was fun kind of justifying your choices to everybody, because everybody in the audience had their own 5 picks too.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And that's fun. There's the debate.
Exactly.
All right. You want to get to the next one?
Yeah.
I don't want to run out of time because we have so many.
No,
cool
we're not
pieces.
going to run out of time. We're not going to run out of time. But so speaking of Cassidy, here we go.
Yes. Now this was in interior pinup of Marvel Comics 1000. And so I got this. I bought this from Albert Moy. So I believe I'm the first owner because he reps John Cassidy. And I'm a big John Cassidy fan and wanted to get something of him. And I actually toyed with this or a cover because they were priced pretty similarly. And, but I just kept holding the flag. It just, I don't know. It just spoke to me that he just looks so, I don't know. He just, he has that determination about him. I just thought it was a really stunning image showing his fighting spirit.
No, I mean, it's the lighting on this thing is majestic. He's heroic. This could be a war poster at the end of the day. I mean, it's really, really, really well done.
Yeah.
I always like Cassaday's work on Cap. I just think, he's a true draftsman, and his skill and the way he handles the figure, and this is a perfect example of it. And it's kind of a graphic quality. I mean, at the end of the day, with the dramatic lighting on the rock and the figure, and then he just chooses to do line art with the flag. I mean, that's really brilliant. I mean, I don't know what the color piece looked like, but as a black and white finished piece, this thing is really stunning.
Yeah, the color piece is absolutely amazing. And on the dark of part of the cliff he's standing here was prose written by Mark Wade. And we actually had Mark on the show, and I talked to him about this because there was what he wrote on literally on the presses. They stopped the presses to change it because high above in Marvel didn't like exactly what Mark had to say. And so they asked him to rewrite it. And so he kind of watered it down a little bit. So it was an interesting conversation with Mark Wade on that, if anybody wants to check that out. But he was like, wow, I can't believe you have this piece.
Well, no, this is a good one. And did you buy it like direct from Albert?
Yeah. I got it from Albert. I think I bought it at Terrificon a few years ago.
Sweet. Well, it's always good. It's fun to get that, be the first buyer on a piece when you're buying it from the rep.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. What do we got next? We've got something from the Epting run on Cap from 2005. Yes.
So I put this page in here because I think it has a lot of significance. Now, obviously, in the panels 2 and 3, there are some things that are missing. So like the part of the, the actual shield diagram that they put on afterwards is missing. And then Cap is standing in the 3rd panel and he's missing. But the page is really, I thought was really cool because Steve Epting is a master. I mean, look at that background. Look at that city landscape. Look at the wrinkles in the clothing. Look at the expression on the faces. Look at the chainmail. The attention of detail is amazing. I'm a sucker for seeing Cap's shield ricochet and flying around. So that also sold me. But really, one of the coolest parts about this particular one is at the very this is issue 6, which is the first appearance of Winter Soldier. So in the comics, this issue goes for a lot of money because first appearance of Winter Soldier, and this actually is the page right before we see Winter Soldier for the very first time, and it's a very cool because what happened is Sharon's she's chained up. I had one person tell me, he's like, oh, wow, you got this really cool page. It even has bondage. I didn't know that's a thing. But apparently
it's a thing.
Yeah. But apparently it's a thing. So he takes the thing off of Sharon's mouth, and she says in the last panel, "You don't understand, Steve. The guy we've been hunting, the man who killed the Red Skull." And you turn the page and you see the Winter Soldier, and she says, "I think it's Bucky." And so this was like, I couldn't get the page of it revealing it's Winter Soldier, but I got the one right leading up to it. So I was pretty excited about it.
Wow. No, I mean, I love Epting's work, and his artwork on this run is just fantastic. So often I go, Anthony's got a few of these on there. I keep going back and looking and thinking, I got to get a page from this run because it's just phenomenal. The story was great. The art, I mean, second to none. I mean, I love Epting. And so this is a fantastic page. Doesn't matter if it's missing something here or there. You get the Cap shield going in there as well, which I think everybody who collects Cap, that's the thing that everybody wants to see is the shield bouncing off of anything,
right?
Let alone two guys noodles. So that's you got a great one there.
Yep. And it is a dark story. And I saw Nate in the chat said this story art breaks my heart. That's because he's a big Jack Monroe fan, and Jack Monroe, Winter Soldier, kills him. Spoiler alert. Sorry, I know it's 15 years later, but yeah. So it is a pretty dark story.
There you go. Yeah.
So let's move to something light, little fun.
Yeah, we are moving to something very light, but very familiar to many of you.
Yeah. So I am. I guess it was a few years ago, 2019 maybe, that I realized that Fred Hembeck was doing cards on eBay, and so I got my first Hembeck card, which was, little Captain America card. So, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then I just became addicted to getting Cap related cards. And then this came up, which is the cover. This is actually a published cover of Comic Shop News. So if you go into a local comic shop, they give you those little free newspapers. Comic Shop News have been around for 30 years. And this is the winter special. And actually, I have here. So this is when I got this from Fred. He actually sent me the winter. Oh, sorry. He sent me the cover, right? This is the actual published thing. So that's kind of neat. And then he sent me this really cool note. And he drew this diagram of Cap and him. And so that was really sweet of him. And then also I got from him. And so we all love the little trading cards, but he did an oversized trading card of me, for me. This is, I was bidding on the normal size, trading card, the colored version of this. And it just kept going up and going up. And I just kept bidding hard on it, and ended up going over $100. And so I guess because I bought the cover from him, he was like, and I know, Rick, you didn't end up getting that, but he said, like, thanks for driving up the price. and he did this for me. So I actually have this on the wall. But and then speaking of the cards, I know somebody had said before, show the Hembeck cards. So yeah, I have a couple of, I have the Cap, I have, original Falcon. I have a couple of other ones here, but I have, so these are Cap allies, right? So I was able to get these off of eBay, and I love the fact that Fred's getting the money himself, right? So I especially during the pandemic, I was like, I really want to support him because I know he can't do shows, he can't do anything else like that. So I didn't feel bad if I paid a little extra from some of these cards. And then I have also Cap villains, and so collected some of these. Now here's a little embarrassing story I'll share. As I showed you some of those cards I have next to you. So whenever I got a new card, I would put the card down, the newest one down there, so I could see it and appreciate it, right? And I had one day, I had this Hydra one there, and it was there for a few weeks, and it's always in your peripheral vision. And then one day, I looked down, and I said, "Oh my God, the uniform has an H for Hydra on it." I was like this year's old when I realized this. I just couldn't believe that I was like, I spent all that time, all these years, looking at Hydra, and it never once dawned on me that there's a big H on their uniform. So
I hate those moments. It's like when you realize, why something was named the way it was. You're like, gosh, I've been calling it that. And, it's just, I don't know. And they don't have a good example, right now. It's not like Betty Crocker or something like that. But you read the name of a product and you're like, oh my God, I've been calling it that for the last, 50 years. And it didn't make sense to me. And now all of a sudden it's slapping me in the face. But, you think about it. It took Hembeck drawing the character so that you could actually see it. That, because you're drawing them in action, whoever's drawing, those figures, Sal, whomever, you might not notice it. But Hembeck, giving you a straight on, character card. That works. But Casper
Oh,
wants to know, where's MODOK? Our
yeah,
CEO is demanding a answer to that question.
yeah. Well, that's because Albert got it from me.
Oh,
Yes, you see what Albert said? I'm
no,
sorry,
I
Alberto.
didn't.
I'm sorry,
Alberto.
Alberto. Yeah,
Let's see. I don't know. He's got a lot of comments in here. Oh, there it is. I received my MODOK Hembuck card in the mail this week.
yeah. Again,
Ah.
Newman.
Good. That's true. Is
Congratulations,
that one
Alberto.
that I think I remember seeing one on eBay
It went
last
high.
week or maybe 2
It
weeks
went
ago?
really high. So congratulations, Alberto. One of these days I will get a MODOK card to put in with my Cap villains.
Well, now that he's got one, he has to lay off the next one. Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, you think. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what else we got here. I mean, that was cool. Just to show it one more time so everybody sees it. And size on the original. What was that? Like 9x12 or what?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a 9x12. Yeah, I have it right over here, but I don't want to waste everybody's time. But yeah, I think it's 9x12.
I know this next we've got 3 pieces.
Yeah, speaking of colored pieces, painted pieces. So there was a series of books that Paul Jenkins wrote and Pablo Rivera painted, and it was the whole Mythos series of one-shots, and these were basically origins of major Marvel characters. And so this one, Captain America Mythos, came out in 2008, and there was I saw these. There was a Tony Cavallari. Just want to give him a shout out. He had these 3 pages, and they were pages 5, which we're seeing right now, and then 7 and 8. And I think this is 8 right here. Which
I've got the wrong one. There you go. This is the one.
There's 7. So you get, we're seeing, basically the origin of Steve Rogers. And I mean, I loved these 3 pages. I felt like I had to get them because I don't have an origin of Steve Rogers. I mean, I would love to get the John Byrne one, someday, but this just beautifully done. And I know you've had Pablo on the Paulo. I'm sorry, Paulo on the show, and talk with him. He actually came on our show as well. So if people want to check that out on our podcast. But Paulo, he took us through these panels and showed, the different things that he had. He put so much work, so much time into the research for these. And like just look at this, page 5 that you just had up. I love the expression in that 3rd panel of just a dejected Steve. And then I love in the 5th panel, you could see how, the general's older and he's kind of struggling to get down on Steve's level, you know what I mean? And, with the way the body is positioned, but at the same time, if he's struggling to do that, you take in the fact that, he's a good man because he wants to be down on Steve's level and talk to him face to face, even though it's a struggle for him as an older man to do so. So there's so much going on in these pages, and Paulo he's a master of his craft. And then you see in that first panel, you see the guy behind him, behind the scrawny Steve, and you see kind of like this goofball guy looking at him. He ends up being in future pages after Steve, is in the army and so on. But I don't know. I could go on and on about these.
No, I love Paulo's work. He's amazing. He will be in the November Comic Art Live again too. He's always
nice.
Yeah, he's already been showing off pieces he's been working on for that. He always sells like 5 or 6 pieces during his panel, and yeah, he usually doesn't display stuff that early. But yeah, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in the hobby. I've gotten to hang out with him a lot because he's rep by Mark Hay.
He's super nice. Yeah. I highly recommend if people check him out on the show. And for those who came late, I'm gonna give a plug. It's Captain America Comic Book Fans. Just check it out on any of your podcast provider. and go through. We like I said, we're up to issue 1 or episode 160. Ton of great guests on there, but Paolo gives a great interview, and he gets a little choked up in it because we talk about some really sensitive stuff. So it's a great conversation.
Yeah, like I
Yes.
think we might as well highlight this as an example of at least the creators and
Yeah.
topics that you cover during your podcasts.
Yeah, we've I got to tell you, Bill, I'm just so blessed that I've had an opportunity as a Captain America fan, to talk to all these different creators. I mean, when I go back to my early days of reading Cap, J.M. DeMatteis was the writer,
Oh
and
yeah.
then you look at, and just having the opportunity to talk with him about his entire arc of writing Cap, and then his editor was Jim Shooter, and having Jim on the show and talking about Marvel's Secret Wars and so on, and then also the DeMatteis run was John Beatty was inking, Bob Sharon was the colorist, so I'm still waiting to get Mike Zeck. One of these days, I'm really hoping we could do it, but Joe Rubenstein came on, talked about what it was like to work with John Byrne and on Captain America. Eric Larson, you're like, what? Well, Eric Larson did a one shot called Captain America: The End. Those series of the End books that Marvel did. Well, he did
Oh yeah.
Captain America. He wrote and did all the art. So we had him on talking about that. Mark Waid came on to talk about his 3 different runs, as well as the miniseries Man at a Time. Steve Englehart, legendary writer for Captain America in the 70s, bringing back the 50s Cap and creating Nomad and all that. I could go on and on, but I hope everybody, if you have even a slight interest in any of the Captain America, you should check these out.
Very cool. And we probably should have shown this before we started talking about all the artwork, but you actually made a bucket list. Not only did you set a price threshold for your year in collecting, but you kind of put together a bucket list of artwork that you were hoping to score in 2023. How are you doing on this list of 9?
Thank you. I did put that out in January. I highly recommend everybody does this, right? Put it out in the world, put it out in the universe. You never know who's paying attention, put out in the, any of the Facebook groups, on Comic Art Fans, and let people know. And you never know. So number 2, you saw I did get that John Byrne page, right? So that took a big chunk of my budget. So couldn't get a whole lot more on the bucket list. I didn't get number 1, a Secret Wars page featuring. Well, I take that back. I did get a Secret Wars page featuring Captain America. It just wasn't published. It was a prelim page, nothing but pencils, and it had Cap, Hulk, Spidey, Mr. Fantastic on it, and it was all pencils by John Byrne. So I was able to get that to hold me over until when I do get a published page.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a Kevin Maguire Justice League page, but I did get that Kevin Maguire cover. Oh, you know what I did get from Kevin Maguire Justice League?
No, but I think you're going to tell me.
I got this Mary Marvel. All right, Alberto, I lied. I'm going to show something else besides the Captain America piece. I just love Kevin Maguire. And so this was a commission that came up. In fact, Kevin loved this so much, he made a colored print of it that he did, gave out or sold it as shows. I am really trying to find the color print of this. So if anybody has a color print on this Mary Marvel, please let me know, because I would love to have the 2 of them together and then I could frame them.
Until then, it's going to stay in the top loader right there.
Yeah, but the list is, I'll have a similar list for next year, and the budget restarts, at midnight on January 1st.
I love it. That's you have a very regimental approach to your spending in the hobby. Whether you can keep to it perfectly or not, there's deviations allowed here or there.
Yep.
So now, of course, this is a fantastic Perez JLA Avengers page from the long-awaited run on that. This was from 2003.
Yeah. So I just traded for this a month or two ago with one of the Donnelly brothers, and I had to give up a few things that I didn't really want to give up. But again, it's the whole philosophy of, I guess, kind of like upgrading and, and in doing so, I really wanted a published piece of George Perez featuring Captain America. And man, JLA Avengers #1. I mean, this has got Cap, it's got Iron Man, it's got Thor, it's got Hawkeye, it's got Scarlet Witch, it's got Quicksilver, it's got Vision, and they're in Metropolis. And so it's I was like, wow, I really, try to make this deal come alive. And so the piece that also has this acetate over it with the word balloons. And so that that's kind of cool. So that's how I have it displayed here at the house, is so that people, or I can look at it and see what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a beautiful page, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people wanted to get a page from that when it finally came out. Let's see here now. McGuire. We've talked about him.
We're getting into a commission. So I think this is from 2019, I want to say. And as I mentioned before, big fan of Kevin McGuire, big fan of his run on Justice League. He does commissions of doing Justice League #1 homage. And so I was like, okay. And he was like, I guess for the same price, you can get, was it 8 characters or something like that? And so I picked Cap and his allies. And so in the, classic Justice League #1 cover. And so obviously Cap goes first, and then his 2 closest friends, Sam and Bucky. And then, had to put a few others. So I mentioned before about John Walker. And I asked him, I said, I want him looking like Guy Gardner, because he's the Guy Gardner of the group. I want him, kind of the whole crossed arms and kind of an attitude type of thing. I wanted a sexy Sharon Carter, and picked that outfit. And then behind Sharon is a Diamondback who is giving Sharon the stink eye because, she's a little jealous. And then in the middle there is D-Man. And I said to Kevin, do me a favor. I want him to look like he's just so proud to be there with everybody else, like he's so happy and excited to actually be included, because he has low self-esteem in the books. And so I wanted him to just be like, wow, I'm here amongst everybody else. And so I think he nailed that expression of just looking proud. And then here you go, Nate. I had him do Jack Monroe, Nomad, from the 80s, wearing that costume. And he's giving Winter Soldier the stink eye, because if you don't know, Winter Soldier killed Jack Monroe in Ed Brubaker's volume. So anyway, I thought Kevin nailed it.
Oh, it's fantastic. It really is. I mean, was this something that took a long while to get after you kind of pitched him on the whole concept, or what was the turnaround time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think it was quite half a year, but it was probably pushing it. But Kevin was great. I reached out to him, personally, and on his website, and sorry, Jason, he is. Spoiler alert. But yeah, he was great, and I've met him at a couple of cons, and I've gotten some, in my sketchbook here, which one of these days I will get scanned and I will put into the CAF Gallery. But I did get him to do a Guy Gardner for me.
Oh boy, nobody does expressions quite like McGuire.
Yeah.
That is
I
fantastic.
asked him, I said, can you do a very pompous looking Guy Gardner? And there you go. I got a pompous looking Guy Gardner.
That is exactly what you got. Oh man. Let's see here. We're switching over to something a little different. We get some Red Skull action again, smoking a cigarette.
All right, so we're going to end with some of my favorite Zek pieces that I have. Yeah, so this I got on Heritage, and it's Zek, inked by McLaughlin, and I just love this page because I didn't have a there's something cool about having those end pages, which next issue coming up, and just having the little teaser there.
Oh yeah.
But this was just super cool because the villain is finally revealed in this, and Cap's like, I didn't see it. How could I not see this? And it's not only the Red Skull, but he's in this Nazi outfit with his cigarette and the long smoker. It's just and then the font of the Red Skull, the way it's done, I don't know, I thought it was a killer splash page.
Oh, totally. And a great way to leave the reader at a cliffhanging moment, right? So
all right, so we'll get to the next one because Alberto's already given me a hard time.
I saw that. I wasn't going to highlight it, but
go ahead.
It's this. So you have the second best Cap cover with Spidey on it.
Yeah. All right. So this was my grail. I got this last year, and this, as soon as I got this, I was like, all right, I'm done for the year. I don't have any budget left. But I finally did get a Zek cover, and this was a 2-part story. So it was issue 265, 266, and it was a little break in between J. DeMatteis's run, and it was written by Kraft, but the interiors are Zek and Beatty. The cover you're looking at is strictly Zek. Beatty didn't ink this; Zek inked himself, and yes, Alberto and I have a little bit of a debate going back and forth on who's got the better cover. I say it's mine because Cap and Spidey are not in submissive poses, being captive. They're actually active, and they're free, and they're fighting, and you got Cap swinging his shield, and you got Spidey swinging and putting web on him. And I say that mine's better because it's got the action on it.
Well, I'm not going to take a look at Alberto's right now, but this is one sweet cover. I'm not going to sway the debate either way. I'll let you guys keep hammering it out behind the scenes who has the better Zek Cap cover. But it's sweet. Composition on this thing is fantastic. And who didn't want to win a
Columbia 10-speed racer
back in the day, right? I mean, I think you didn't know what, why, or when, or how you might be able to get it, but you were picking up a lot of comics during that run to get the new 10-speed racer.
Yeah, and yeah, it's got the Kirby Crackle. Thank you. Mine has Kirby Crackle. There you go, Alberto. Yours has Nick Fury, but mine's got Kirby Crackle. Now, don't get me wrong. I have been after Alberto for a very long time because I want cover 265. Because it's a 2-part story, and I really think, Alberto, they really need to come back together again. They've been separated for so long. I think 265, 266, bring the family back together. That's all I'm saying.
All right, I'm just going to make everybody in the chat happy just for a moment. There you go, everybody. I put the Cap mask on for you. That's it. That's the only time you're going to get to see it on me today. Oh, wait a minute.
All right, I'll do this. How about that?
Hey. And the Cap hat. All right, there we have it. Now we are supporting the everybody's habit here. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, says James. All right. Let's see here. We got a few more pieces to look at. So next up
All
is
right. So
nice title splash here.
I've never had a title splash before. I just think they're so cool. There's so much history to them with having the Stanley Presents, having the creators listed, the title, heck, even the indicia at the bottom, right? It's just,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of cool to have. And the other thing too is now Zek only did for Captain America, he only did 30 splashes. So there's a limited amount of splashes that Zek did for Captain America. Only 13 of them have Captain America in uniform. So it makes it even more rare to get a Zek title splash with Cap in full uniform. So I thought this was pretty cool because you got Nick Fury, you got the Howling Commandos, and it's just, I love the word balloons. It's a fun piece.
Heck yeah. No, this is it's very nice. Hey, and Harry had a question for you. So Rick, only Steve Rogers cap?
That's a great question, Carrie, because I think you've got some Sam Wilson stuff. I've been tempted. There've been a couple times where I've been tempted to pick up a Sam Wilson. I'm not against it, and if I had an unlimited budget, absolutely would have it. And for that matter, a Bucky cap. I would totally have. I do have a John Walker cap by Tom Morgan, if that counts. But yeah, I'm a Steve Rogers guy. As I said, Steve Rogers, my favorite fictional character of all time is Steve Rogers.
There you have it. It's okay to be a purist on these things.
Yeah.
Let's see. The next piece is, guess what? It's another Zek from Annual 8, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. We're finishing with Zek. We started with my very first piece was Zek, and then we left him alone for a long time. Now we're finishing with Zek. So this was a from Annual number 8, and this is actually inked by, while Beatty did a lot of the inking in this annual, Joe Rubenstein did this particular page. He did like the last few pages of the annual, and so we actually we had Joe on the show, and again he was talking about his time with John Byrne, but we also talked to him about this annual, and he had said that he fought hard to make sure that his name was credited in here because otherwise he knew he wasn't going to get any royalties. And so it was an interesting story. I recommend people, check out. It was one of the earlier episodes on the podcast. Love this page. Who did I get this page from? I feel bad. I want to give a shout out to who I got this page from. And was it John Hess? Might have been John Hess. So we'll just say that. But yeah, Harry, that third panel speaks to me tremendously. I love seeing Cap's shield flying and ricocheting. It's got Wolverine in it. He's got his claws out. He's even saying bub, right? like that's so cool. And the way he's leaning forward, that is totally the Wolverine from Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, right? Like that's
definitely,
yeah, you could just see the way he's drawing it. But you're right. That third panel with that grimace behind the shield. Did anybody see Punisher in that expression? I mean, I love that third panel.
Yeah, it's a beautiful page, man. It really is. I mean, from the Wolverine to that third panel, I mean, it's fantastic. And if Jason says he'll take it, it's a good one.
All right, Jason.
Now this next one, I mean, is a photograph that it's hard because you basically have three images here: the pencil Zek, and then the John Beatty inked piece, and then the Bob Sharon colored piece. But all framed together, it looks like. I mean, that's got to be pretty spectacular to see in person.
Yeah, it almost has a little Andy Warhol thing going on.
It does. When I first saw it, I was like, "What's going on in this thing?" And then I figured it out. I mean, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, so I I went to Baltimore Comic Con in 2019. And Zek was there, Beatty was there, and it was one of those things where I made a beeline for Zek's table. As soon as the doors opened, wanted to get on his commission list. I'd never gotten a commission from him before, and so he was like, "All right, what are you looking for?" And I was like, "My favorite cover to Captain America is 275, and that is." Has a yellow background. Cap's there with his shield. He's looking up. He's yelling. There's like bullet holes behind him, and I was like, I want something similar to that. I want that kind of look. And so he was like, "You got it." And so he did the pencils, and then now this was after the show, right? He did the pencils, and then he went ahead and sent it to John to ink. And I asked John, I said, "Listen, can make a copy of the pencils because I want to see what the pencils look like." So what you're looking at here is the top is a copy. It's not the original pencils. The original pencils are inked. So the middle is actually the pencils by John. I'm sorry, the pencils by Mike and the inks by John. But the copy is above just to kind of give you perspective. And then Bob Sharon was the colorist on Captain America at the time that these two guys were on there. And of course, he was in colorist on every book back then. But I had asked him, I said, "Could you do that?" And he hand colors. This isn't computers, right? He actually hand colored a copy of the middle one. So the top is a copy of the pencils. The middle is the actual pencils and inks. The bottom is a hand colored version of a copy of the middle one. And so I was like, I want to put them all together because it beautifully shows that the way the the work just goes and flows. Instead of doing it horizontally, I end up going vertically because if I felt if you went horizontally, your eyes would automatically go to the color. But the way this flows here, it's your eyes kind of drop down to it, and that way you could appreciate all three pieces at the same time.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool way to do it, I think. Let me see here. I've got the published image that you're used as reference, so people kind of know what you're.
My favorite Zek cover, Cap cover of all time. I know the owner. He's not going to part with it. If it is, I would have to sell my house.
Well, we know it's not Alberto, so
yeah, this is one Zek cover he doesn't have.
Yeah, well, I bet he wishes he did, though. So we do have one last piece here, and that is a Red Skull commission by Mr. Zek as well from 2020.
Yeah, so a couple years later, I reached out to him, and I asked him. I said, "Would you mind doing a commission? I'm looking for a Red Skull, and I think this is a 9x12." And man, he's just so good. He did the pencils and then he did the inks, and then he said, he asked me, he said, "Would you mind if I did the Copic Gray?" And I was like, "Sure, go for it." and then, he did it, and then he showed it to me. He's like, "Do you like it with the Copic Gray? Because if not, and I was like, no, trust me. I love it with the Copic Gray. This is absolutely amazing." And I mean, those eyes, I know we talked before about Kirby in that last panel of how sinister Kirby made Zek look. I mean, how Red Skull looked, but man, this is just he nails it. And I love the cigarette with the long thing, and of course you got to have the Nazi signet just to even epitomize how awful he is.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, Zek's definitely, hard to get these days. So I mean, you can't say that that nobody will be able to get another commission, but at least you got a couple. I mean, I think he's actually making a appearance in Manila. So I know he's living in that area of the world these
He
days.
is,
So
yeah.
he's just going to be a hard guy to get a hold of.
He's semi-retired and has been for the last couple of years, and
Yep.
he's enjoying life. So he's doing fine. I see. Alberto had said, surprised you didn't show the Casada Red Skull, Rick. So, and this is a shout out to Alberto, because we do talk all the time about, hey, did you see this art? Did you see this art?
Mm-hmm.
And we give each other tips. And he gave me the tip to the Casada Red Skull. That was actually from Tri-State, so that was Hans, and it was originally a commission that was done, and I have the piece here, but it was originally a commission that Joe Casada had done that they end up making into a cover for the there you go, the Fear itself. So do I have that?
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah. And the difference between the Fear itself and the actual, I mean, this and the actual published cover was, if you look at the medals on his chest, on the published cover, they turned that into a Hydra signal.
Mm-hmm.
So, but other than that, it's the same. So, I don't have too many published covers in my collection, but this is one of them.
That is pretty cool. So I assume when you bought it, you knew it had already been published, right?
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah. Danny Mickey did the inks.
Yep. No, the ever-present Crime Lab studio stamp. That's cool. So yeah, no, nice, very nice. I mean, well, I'm sure it wasn't easy to pick the 18. When I give everybody that number, it seems like a lot, but when you start after whittling it, your collection down to figuring out what pieces to go after, you invariably, you probably want to pick a few more pieces here or there. And you kind of cheated by giving me 3 pieces from Paulo. So,
I did. You can't separate them though.
No, you can't. They have to be together.
Yeah.
Well, this was awesome, man. I think you've assembled an incredible collection, and I mean, looking at the want list that we looked at earlier, I mean, are there, if you had to pick one of those that you could get, not thinking of what the page is, I mean, which one would be the highest thing on your list? I mean, I saw you had a Miller Daredevil,
sure.
As an option.
Mazzucchelli,
yeah, exactly. I mean, so if looking at the pieces that you haven't gotten yet this year, if you had to just pick one, which would be the one that you'd want to get?
Great question. And I keep going back to how much I love Kevin Maguire. I would love to get a panel page from Justice League International that just really epitomizes the expressions, right? Like, I would love to get a Beetle and Booster Gold talking to, I don't know, one of the other characters, and then they're all just kind of, expressions, reactions. Sure. I would love to get that. But yeah, I think that's high on my list. The other thing too that I've been doing recently is, and again, it's all about nostalgia, right, Bill? So I'm a big Bloom County fan, and so I started getting some Bloom County strips. That's a slippery slope.
It is.
That is
Those
a slippery
are sweet.
slope.
I've thought about buying one myself, but I have yet to pull the trigger. But I mean, that's, I was reading comic strips a lot during that period, and Bloom County was at the top. It was like, wow, this is the most intellectual strip I've read, ever. And I love it. It showed you a different way that comic strips could be written. And yeah, there's a big appeal there for me as well.
Oh, number one Marvel fan. Absolutely. With Guy arguing with Captain Whitebread. 100%. Yeah. I totally love that.
Yeah. I don't, I have 10 targets now, thanks to Jason. Yeah. Focus. Don't you worry. I will. But yeah, I know how that goes. That's cool though. I mean, it's funny when certain artists can draw a talking head scene, and you enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
McGuire is one. I always felt like Paul Smith did a pretty good job in X-Men with just a lot of like talky scenes, because a lot of those team books are a lot of conversation. There's always the payoff battle scenes and everything, but there's a lot of BSing going on in between, and some of it can come off rather boring, right?
Right.
But
yeah, the artist makes all the difference. I mean, listen, you get a Brian Michael Bendis Talking Heads, right?
Yeah.
And you have all those, but a lot of times it's the same head repeated, and just the word balloons are different, right? And there might be a little minor change here and there. You take away those word balloons, that page doesn't speak to you the way a Kevin McGuire page would,
right.
With their facial expressions. So.
Well, I completely agree. And I don't know who has the punch page, Jason. Isn't it on CAF? I don't know. I feel like it might be. I'm not sure though. But Rick, we actually made it right to the 2-hour mark, man. We predicted it, and we succeeded. So,
well, thank you to everybody who's still actually watching this.
Well, I still got 50 people watching live, so that's not too bad. We didn't bore anybody, I don't think.
Excellent. All right. And it wasn't too long ago you had Alberto on. So, to come back with another Cap fan so soon, that was very brave on your part, Bill.
Well, it wasn't intentional. I've just, I've known about your collection for a while, and, the podcast that you've done. And I don't feel like we've really, reached out to too many people who are doing similar things in the hobby, to spread the good word about comics and art collecting and everything. And so that's kind of why I circled back more, because of that. I was like, it's long overdue that we, get a chance to spread the good word. And there is a link in the show description for everybody, so that you can check out Rick's podcasts. And I encourage you to do it. I've listened to the last week. I did listen to the Alberto one, just to compare it to our interview. But but that's kind of fun. It's like you're bringing in people that you're not always talking to the pros, but you bring in collectors who share the same affinity for Cap. So
I'm looking forward to coming down to meeting you in person in January.
Yep. That's going to be a lot of fun, and you get to meet your compatriot at the same time down there as well. You should have somebody filming that.
Oh, totally. Yeah, we're gonna try to do something. So me and my partner, we're thinking about doing like little video diaries of leading up to it, getting on the plane. We'll have some fun with it.
Well, I hope a lot of people who are coming to OAX kind of approach it that way too. I mean, it's going to be a good time, and I think I told my son, like, I'm going to have you going around the room and filming like reels, just moments in time that and post them. So it's not like we're going to give the show away to everybody, but just kind of keying on some of the fun moments during the show, just to give everybody an interesting taste of it, because we're going to have videographers at the show. So we're looking at it as we don't want to miss the opportunity of filming, a lot of things. Some, certainly some of the panels, but just a lot of the interactions between the collectors and the artists and the dealers and auction houses that are there. I want to get it all, and then put together some really nice some footage after the show. So it's going to be a good time. And you're there on Friday night too.
I am. Yeah, I did the VIP package. I'm hoping to make some new friends. I know there's a lot of people who already know a lot of each other, and so I always feel a little strange kind of walking up into a circle of people talking. I'm not that comfortable doing that, believe it or not. So if you see me at the show in January, reach out to me. I would love to get to know you a little bit better and learn more about what you're collecting.
Well, I can tell you one of the things, and Dino brought up this idea, probably because he's been to a lot of trade shows, and so he's lifted it. But it was a wonderful idea that with the with your badge, right? We were going to provide people with options to kind of put some stickers on it. Like we have a row, and get you can pick 3 that define you as a collector. So you could have like a Cap shield and a Marvel and something else, and just those can be like icebreakers, right? If you're walking by and somebody else has a Cap shield on their and they're carrying a portfolio, you stop them.
Love it,
because isn't that a great idea? I was like, damn, that I love that idea. I mean, you got to make them big enough so people can see them. But if you're in a group talking and you notice some guy's got a Wolverine claw, claws on it.
Cool, I love the idea. Great job, Dino.
Yeah. So again, we want to make the network opportunities, real easy for everybody, as easy as we can, because like we talked about this, it's an opportunity to actually meet people for the first time. And if you have a little leg up on understanding what their collecting tastes are, that's going to make the conversations flow, so much easier. Because I'm introverted as well. I mean, I do a pretty good job when I'm stammering my way through these interviews, but throw me in a crowd of people in person, and it's going to be a little different.
Yeah.
So icebreakers are always good.
And name tags.
Alex Johnson. Without question, Alex. So I mean, like we did in Columbus, name tags are kind of a mandatory thing. I mean, I know they're kind of silly, but at the same time, it's like, no, not at all. I mean, you're meeting people for the first time, or maybe the second time. I mean, I'm terrible with names. I need first names at least on everybody's badge or lanyard. It's going to help.
You know what would be really cool? Just throwing this out there.
Mm-hmm.
Name tags should have at least not only their real name, but their name on CAF if they don't use the same name. So you could associate and be like, oh, you're so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they have their little avatar on CAF, have that there.
That's a good idea.
You know what I mean? Because they're like, oh, I've seen that avatar a million times. Thank you so many times, for, Marcus. Thank you so many times for commenting on my pieces.
Yes, you'll know exactly who Marcus is if he were there. I have no idea if Marcus is going to make it, but if his avatar was on there, you know which one he is.
Right.
No, I love that idea, and again, that's what makes this whole thing fun, is just trying to brainstorm ideas to make the show all the more interesting and inviting for people. I mean, I think that we want people walking away with like, damn, that was a lot of fun. And hopefully people will be really open with sharing ideas after we're done, because this is an opportunity to really craft a show exactly the way we want it, that no other show could really ever do. I think just because, we're open to just making this thing be the coolest thing that has ever happened in the hobby. I want it to be a mainstay for everybody for years to come. So, Marcus says no comment. Yeah. From the man who comments on everything. All right. Well, we'll end it on that note. Thank you, Marcus. But Rick, honestly, man, this was a lot of fun. I look forward to meeting you in person when we get down to Orlando in January. And if there's anything ever, especially with your podcast, if you want something promoted because you've interviewed a collector or an artist that you think would be worth noting there, I don't mind running that kind of stuff in the CAF news as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'll take you up on that. Thank you so much. And Bill, thank you for having me on the show. Been an absolute pleasure. And again, I go back to what I said in the beginning. Thank you for everything you've done for this hobby. It's truly appreciated. I know I'm speaking for everybody in the chat. We all owe a lot of gratitude for this. So thanks for having us on.
My pleasure, Rick. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night. I'll be back at it again tomorrow with Mike and Anthony. We'll get to hear probably them complain about things from New York Comic Con. Hopefully, both of them are not sick with COVID, because as somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, a lot of people came back from New York with COVID, unfortunately. Hopefully, that's not the case with these guys. I haven't talked to them since the show, but we'll see how things are going. But have a wonderful night. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.